In the quiet town of Maplewood, nestled among rolling hills and whispering pines, lived a spirited black Labrador named Trigger. His glossy coat shimmered under the sun, and his amber eyes sparkled with an uncanny intelligence. Trigger wasn't just any dog. He was a fire detection dog, trained by the Maplewood Fire Department to sniff out the faintest traces of smoke or accelerants. But to the Thompson family, Mark, Lisa, and their two children, Emma and Noah, Trigger was more than a hero in training. He was their loyal companion, a furry guardian who curled up by the fireplace and chased squirrels in the backyard. Trigger's journey began 2 years earlier when Fire Chief Maria Delgado spotted his potential at a local shelter. The gangly pup, barely a year old, had a nose that could rival a bloodhound's and a relentless curiosity. Under Maria's guidance, Trigger underwent rigorous training. He learned to detect the chemical signatures of smoke, gasoline, and even faulty wiring, his nose twitching with precision. His reward: a squeaky tennis ball and a belly rub, which he cherished more than any treat. By the time he was 2, Trigger was a certified fire detection dog, accompanying firefighters on inspections and investigations. The Thompsons adopted Trigger through a community program that paired working dogs with families. Mark, a high school science teacher, was fascinated by Trigger's skills. Lisa, a nurse, adored his gentle demeanor with the kids. Emma, 10, and Noah, 7, treated him like a sibling, dressing him in silly hats and sneaking him bits of their dinner. Trigger's days were a balance of duty and domestic bliss. Mornings sniffing out potential hazards at local businesses, afternoons napping on the Thompsons' porch, and evenings playing fetch in the yard. One chilly November night, the Thompsons were fast asleep in their cozy 2-story home. The clock ticked past midnight, and the house was silent except for the soft hum of the heater. Trigger, curled up on his bed in the living room, stirred. His nose twitched, catching a faint, acrid scent that didn't belong. He lifted his head, ears perked, and sniffed again. The smell was stronger now. Sharp, chemical, like the burnt wiring he'd been trained to detect. It was coming from the kitchen. Trigger sprang to his feet, his training kicking in. He padded to the kitchen, where the scent grew intense near the stove. A faulty wire in the wall, hidden behind the drywall, had begun to smolder, sparked by an unnoticed short circuit. The smoke was faint, invisible to human senses, but to Trigger, it was a blaring alarm. He didn't hesitate. With a low, urgent bark, he bolted upstairs to the Thompsons' bedrooms. First, he nudged open Emma's door, barking sharply. Emma groaned, rubbing her eyes. "Trigger, what's wrong?" she mumbled. But Trigger's insistent barking and the way he tugged at her pajama sleeve made her sit up. He darted to Noah's room next, leaping onto the bed and barking until Noah woke, startled. By now, Emma was in the hallway, calling for her parents. Trigger raced to Mark and Lisa's room, pawing at the door and letting out a series of loud, desperate barks. Mark stumbled out of bed, heart racing. "Trigger, buddy, what's going on?" he asked. But the dog was already bounding downstairs, pausing to look back as if urging them to follow. Lisa, sensing something was wrong, grabbed her phone and followed Mark. The kids trailed behind, sleepy but scared by Trigger's behavior. In the kitchen, Trigger stood by the stove, barking furiously. Mark sniffed the air, catching the faintest hint of something burnt. "Lisa, do you smell that?" he asked, his voice tense. Lisa's eyes widened. "It's like smoke." She dialed 911 while Mark grabbed a flashlight and checked the stove. There was no visible fire, but Trigger's agitation was undeniable. The dog circled the kitchen, his nose low, then pawed at the wall behind the stove. Mark hesitated, then remembered Trigger's training. "He's telling us something's wrong," he said, pulling the kids back. Within minutes, the Maplewood Fire Department arrived, sirens piercing the night. Chief Delgado was among them, and when she saw Trigger's alertness, she knew to trust him. "Get me the thermal imager," she called to her team. The device revealed a hot spot in the wall, a smoldering electrical fire that hadn't yet broken through. The firefighters cut into the drywall, exposing the glowing wires, and extinguished the blaze before it could spread. The Thompsons' home was saved, and so were their lives. As the firefighters worked, Trigger sat by Emma and Noah, his tail wagging softly as they clung to him. Lisa knelt beside him, tears in her eyes. "You're our hero, Trigger," she whispered, scratching his ears. Mark joined them, wrapping his arms around his family and their four-legged savior. Chief Delgado approached, a proud smile on her face. "This dog's nose is better than any alarm system," she said. "You're lucky to have him." The next morning, the Thompsons' home buzzed with activity. Neighbors brought casseroles, and the local news crew arrived to interview the family. Trigger, oblivious to the fuss, chewed on his favorite tennis ball, occasionally glancing up as if to check on his humans. The story spread quickly. Fire detection dog saves family from disaster. Maplewood hailed Trigger as a hero, and the fire department awarded him a shiny medal, which Emma proudly hung on his collar. In the weeks that followed, the Thompsons made changes. They installed new smoke detectors, had their wiring inspected, and never ignored Trigger's alerts, no matter how small. Trigger resumed his dual life, sniffing out dangers by day, lounging with his family by night. But something had shifted. To the Thompsons, he was no longer just a pet or a working dog. He was their guardian, their miracle. One evening, as the family sat around the dinner table, Noah raised his glass of milk. "To Trigger," he said, giggling. Emma chimed in. "To the best dog ever." Mark and Lisa laughed, clinking their glasses. Trigger, sprawled under the table, thumped his tail against the floor, content in the warmth of his family's love. And so, in the little town of Maplewood, Trigger's legend grew. He was a reminder that heroes come in all forms, sometimes with wagging tails and noses that could smell danger before it struck. For the Thompsons, he was more than a hero. He was family, and he had given them the greatest gift of all: time to make more memories together.